York's only local show is back on its new home on York's only local station.
Guess who's back? Back again.
This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
I'm back.
Now, broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios inside Wellspan Park, here's Gary Sutton.
And man, are we loaded for bear today with all kinds of things going on everywhere you look. Welcome to Trump world, right? Yeah, it's every single day there is something coming at you, and a controversy or a policy or something. It's like a buffet table. And not everybody wants to eat from the buffet right now, and some people do. So welcome to the Gary Sutton Show here on WOYK with a lot more than just Trump world today. A lot of things happening around us. This is the Main Street of America and York County, brought to you by Barley Snyder Law Firm, innovative legal solutions for your business. They are a law firm for today's business world. I am Gary Sutton. Mark McKenzie here this morning with you. You can check us out a lot of different ways, including texting us throughout the show today at 833-478-4729. You can also give us a call throughout the show if you would like at 846-9870. I've got lunch today coming up at 12 o'clock, Mark, out with Yanni's. I've got a number of people stopping out to say hello today, and I hope you will be one of them. That's right there at 310 Town Center Drive at West Manchester Town Center, right out there on Route 30 West. You can see it right next to Buffalo Wild Wings is Yanni's, and some of the great Greek food you're ever going to have in your life. We'll be talking to John Polisopoulos this morning about that. Don't forget to check out your Revolution tickets. Mark just saw a whole box of tickets when he went over to the other side of the stadium here. Yeah, and they're ready to get out to you. So get your ticket packages right now by going to YorkRevolution.com or stop out here at the ticket office, and they are ready to help you every single day. Tons of things happening around us, and we're going to get to all that this morning. But we've got some great guests for you today as well. Starting out at 6:35 this morning, we'll have Michael Geer for the Pennsylvania Family Institute with us. And then we'll have Jeff Coleman at 7:05. Michael's in at 6:35. Jeff Coleman at 7:05 will stop by. He's the co-host of Morning Light with Deborah Pinkerton on Lighthouse TV. And he'll be talking a little bit about what's going on politically here around us in the country. We'll also be checking in a little bit later on this morning with Julie Wheeler. Oh, and John, we said John Polisopoulos will be with us about 7:22. Julie Wheeler at 7:35 this morning for the York County Commissioner. She's the President Commissioner, as she gets into what's happening here in the county and keeping you up to date with all the things that are happening around you that you may not always see. Yeah. And then Ryan Fox at 8:05 today. He's the guy that we're going to kind of pinpoint because he's going to talk about a lot of the things happening economically. What about these tariffs, and are they wearing us out? And is President Trump talking about them every day, wearing us out? A lot of people might say yes. I talked to a couple of people yesterday, and they were just telling me, have you seen your retirement account recently? Have you looked at those accounts? I don't look at those. I don't look at them right now because I've often found that in this world where everything is circular, it does eventually roll back. But if I look at them right now, I might cry, and I don't want to do that. So anyway, that is going to be going on this morning. We'll talk with Steve Shetter today about some of the things you can do with ants and termites and things like that coming in this time of the year. He's from TES Services, and he'll tell us about that at 8:22. Tim Barker, our district attorney, with us this morning at 8:35. And he's going to get into legalization of marijuana, yay or nay on that. And he'll give us some interesting things, some insights into some research and some things that they have found out about that. So all of that, Mark, right here today on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
How exciting. There are other things that have happened in the past, which we will not talk about, but you will hear, you will experience, because it is Wednesday and it's TV show theme day.
Oh, that's right.
For bumper music. So I'm going to try to drag out some favorites, but some esoteric ones as well.
And we might even have, some news you might have missed today.
Uh-huh. It's also Jumbo Day.
Jumbo Day?
There was a time when I would have ordered jumbo everything.
Huh.
Matter of fact, not that long ago, I think it was earlier this year, I discovered something in the frozen section of my local grocery store. And I've been eating a lot of these like Nutty Buddies, the ice cream cone.
Okay.
Mainly because it's better. I don't know if it's lower calorie. Well, I think I would eat a bowl of ice cream normally, and I got to cut that out. So, it's portion control. Eating these cones. Well, I went in one day and I was looking for something a little different, and they actually had, I don't remember the maker of it, had king cones.
Wow.
King size cones.
I've had one of them.
I'm like, oh my Lord.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
And I did buy one box, but I felt really guilty.
Buying a whole box of king-size cones.
Oh, and every
on
time
Jumbo Day.
Yes. Maybe once. Do it once.
Right.
It is National Unicorn Day.
Okay.
Winston Churchill Day.
We will meet them on the shores. We will meet them on the beaches.
That's really bad.
It was pretty
How
terrible.
about Neil Diamond doing
No.
Winston?
No. Don't even think of it. That would be like sacrilege. I don't have room over here to get away from the lightning when it hits you.
It is also National.
Oh, my goodness.
It's too cold for you to hit me.
Oh.
National Former Prisoner of War Recognition Day.
Okay.
So if you were a POW, glad to have you around.
Yeah, exactly right. I was looking at some of the things this morning also. Just what were kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah?
And they were saying about, this is something you sent me this morning.
Oh,
They were saying something about guys feel really good when they dress up. According to new research, the average man feels 67% more confident when sporting a suit or tuxedo.
oh yes.
But about 20% admit they still struggle with tying a necktie.
Not me.
Yeah.
Well, let me take that back. The only thing I don't understand, I keep having to retie it because the part in the back, the back part,
Yeah.
is too long. And then I'll undo it and say, okay, well, I'll just do it a little bit more this way.
It depends on the type of tie you have, I've found.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I used to have really long ties when I weighed a lot more because I had a lot more room to cover. And I would take it all the way down and match the bottom of the tie, and it seemed to always work out. Now, the ties I have are shorter, and I take it down about 2/3 of the way, and then I tie it. That's just a little rule of thumb.
Okay.
By the way, I did see a list, though, of the top 5 other things that men can do to boost their confidence.
Oh,
And I thought it might be interesting to share with
Let's do that.
with a breathless public out there. According to researchers, men feel 2/3 more confident when they wear a suit. That's not the only simple thing guys can do to feel better about themselves.
Okay.
For example, you could put extra time into your appearance. Unless it's twisting your hair into a man bun, then don't.
yeah,
Okay,
right.
don't. Yeah, just
Absolutely.
save yourself.
Yes.
Yes. Wear sunglasses indoors. Plus, your coworkers won't be able to tell that you're, maybe drunk or whatever. I don't know. I'm just saying. No, most of us wouldn't. Refer to yourself in the third person with your high school nickname preceded by a "the." Trust me, ladies will go crazy for the Rickster or the Markster.
No.
No. Don't refer to yourself in the third person like you are some kind of entity.
Right.
Click your tongue and wink after you say cool things like, know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? And I haven't been drinking, officer. Yeah, I haven't been drinking, officer. Yeah. Lift weights. Be sure to flex those muscles while saying, welcome to the gun show. That'll make you feel really good, right? How about this one? Recite positive affirmations in the mirror like, I'm fun to be around, and my 401k will recover. Those would be really cool things you could say to give you more confidence, right? Instead of negative thoughts, focus on what you're good at. Like, let's come back to that one. Okay. And finally, you want to really feel good about yourself, men, stand next to Kevin Hart. That would make
there
you
you
feel
go.
there. You'd
Yeah,
feel
probably.
better about yourself,
I
right?
might be taller than him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying. So there's a few things right there to help you feel a little bit better about yourselves, guys, in case you didn't. I hope all of you feel good about yourself. That's kind of an important thing. So anyway, I was looking at one of those, hopefully trying to get a question for the day on our Facebook page at Gary Sutton Show. You can check that out. You can also, by the way, check out our podcast. At the end of the day, I have a number of podcasts up right now under Just a Voice on Main Street. You can find that at YouTube. Just go up and find Just a Voice on Main Street, Gary Sutton, and you go down and you'll see all of our podcasts there that we are doing separately from our daily podcast, which is up every day under WOYK. That's a different one on YouTube. I hope I didn't confuse you with all of that. So there you have that going for you as well. And as we said, you can text us today at 833-478-4729. That's a good question there somewhere about what do men need to do to feel more confident? Would that be a good question or not? It doesn't sound like a good question to me.
It's not. I think what happens is women really don't ever lose that. Okay.
Women are pretty confident in themselves.
Well, and let me put it, with the way they look. So they put a lot of effort into it. And of course, it's always to boost their confidence.
Right.
But men, I think most men don't do that. They slack off after a certain amount of time. It's, like myself, T-shirts, hoodies, and you dress up rarely or spend some extra time. And I think if you put in a little extra time, you might feel not necessarily more confident, but just more connected.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like, there are other people and, you're interacting with the world. So, make an effort.
Well, here you go. This will help you today. You'll feel better. A species of turtle has taken one step closer to becoming Pennsylvania's state reptile. The House Game and Fisheries Committee approved House Bill 401, yes, they really do this, on Tuesday for the eastern box turtle to be designated as the Keystone State's official state reptile.
I wonder if any other state has the eastern box turtle.
I just don't know. The legislation now moves to the full House of Representatives for consideration. Representative Perry A. Stambaugh, who's a Republican in Juniata and Perry counties, sponsored the bill. They don't have a lot to do in Juniata and Perry counties, apparently. He told the committees how he came up with the idea while visiting a first grade class of students at Juniata Elementary School in Mifflintown. The students were doing a presentation on state symbols such as milk being the state beverage, and Representative Stambaugh presented the class with a state flag. A boy came up to me afterward and said, "How come we don't have a state reptile?" Since Pennsylvania doesn't have one, Stambaugh asked of the class if they thought it should be a snake, a lizard, or a turtle. I wasn't surprised when they all said turtle. They wanted a turtle, he said. The representative said the boy added, "It should be one of those yellow turtles we see on the roads all summer long." The yellow turtle is the eastern box turtle that can be seen throughout the state.
There is, it is actually the reptile of one other state.
Is it really? Mm-hmm. No. So we're sharing it with somebody.
They already have it.
Oh.
So what
are we going to do?
We're kind of latching on.
I suppose.
You want to guess the state?
It's probably next door.
It's close, but it's not as close as you might think.
I'm gonna just guess New Jersey.
It's North Carolina.
North Carolina, okay.
But New Jersey wasn't a bad guess because it's close.
Water.
It's closer.
Unfortunately, by the way, the eastern box turtle is becoming an at-risk species, experiencing population declines across most of its range due to a variety of factors. A lot of it related to a habitat loss. So there you go, the eastern box turtle.
Yeah.
So, making some news this morning here. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We've got a lot more news that's even bigger than the eastern box turtle right here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
And he said he would rather die 1,000 deaths than go have to meet with General Grant.
What did he think was going to happen to him?
He expected to be General Grant's prisoner.
At 1:30 in the afternoon, Lee and Grant met. What's at stake when these two men sit down here?
What's at stake is the future of this country. Will we be one country again?
After 4 years of war and 700,000 dead, the man known as Unconditional Surrender Grant wrote out the terms he thought President Lincoln, with his promise of malice toward none and charity toward all, would want.
Grant offers very generous terms. He's not going to punish the South. He's going to parole these soldiers and allow them to go home.
It was over in 90 minutes. Lee called for his horse.
General Grant takes off his hat to General Lee as he's riding by, and the rest of his staff follows in that salute, as you will, and General Lee doffs his hat to General Grant as he rides away.
And then what does he tell the troops?
He can barely speak, but it's something along the lines of, go home and become good citizens.
The Union troops begin to fire their rifles in the air, and eventually artillery begin to fire salutes, and Grant orders it stopped.
And of course, it was on this date, 160 years ago, 1865, the Civil War ended.
Some graciousness there on both sides in that day. And I think, didn't I read somewhere where Lee thought he might get arrested that day by Grant, that he thought maybe Grant would take him prisoner, and Grant did no such thing. And again, a lot of that coming at the behest of President Abraham Lincoln, who was not about to rub it in their face, so to speak, and realize he had to kind of put the country back together again. Although he had a very short time, he did not know it at that moment because of the assassination later on. By the way, I want to tell you about our presenting sponsor, Barley Snyder. A lot of people are asking about Barley Snyder, the law firm. And Barley Snyder, it features a wide variety of practice areas. They're a well-known name here in the York area and around Pennsylvania for a long time, and industry groups and service teams geared toward helping you achieve your business goals. They have a lot of different kinds of practice areas like alternative dispute resolution, where they control costs and keep cases out of the courtroom, as it's their business, appellate litigation, have extensive trial practice when they do go into the room, complemented by its appellate practitioners, ensuring that they can assist clients at all phases of litigation. They do a lot of work in business, too. They have innovative attorneys who partner with business leaders to achieve success in the areas of ESOP, family-owned businesses, finance, mergers and acquisitions and securities, commercial litigation. They're there to provide you with the guidance and representation needed to protect your interests, minimize your risk, maximize your recovery, and achieve the best outcomes as efficiently as possible. Now, we have an office located right here in York, and it is at Barley Snyder, 100 East Market Street here in York, 17401. And you can give them a call at 717-846-8888. Very easy number to remember, 717-846-8888. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and they are ready to help you as an individual in a lot of different areas and as a business in a lot of different areas. Find out if they can help you today. Give them a call at 717-846-8888. They are a proud sponsor of the Gary Sutton Show here on WOYK, and we are very happy to have them with us. You can find them at barley.com. WOYK News Time, 6:25. Lots of things happening around the world right now. And it's interesting on this whole tariff business. We've been talking a lot about things that a lot of people, even who are on the side of the president right now, are really itchy about this whole thing, unsure about where it's all going. And I had a friend yesterday, and by the way, I do want to mention this. Charlie Dro, who's been a good friend of this show for a long time, has been really ill for the last 5 weeks. And he's in a...
What's the matter with him?
He's in a rehab center. He has a very rare autoimmune disease, which took away his ability to walk and took away his ability to work his hands for a while. And I went to visit him yesterday for about an hour and a half. And we were talking a little bit about things, and he said, "Have you looked at your retirement calculator?" I said, "No, I don't want to cry."
I got my statement yesterday, so
there you go. I got one too yesterday from Ryan Fox, who we'll be talking later on this morning.
It was first quarter, so it wasn't quite as bad.
Mine had tear marks on it, but it was Yes. So anyway, I think I was Ryan crying as he sealed the envelope. But no, I just put a prayer in for Charlie. He's I said yesterday, do you mind if we put a request out
Mention
there
it.
for that. And he said no. He said it's really tough. He was in Johns Hopkins for 5 weeks,
That's unbelievable.
and he is
And does he know where this came from?
no. Has no idea. It hit him. He was down at spring training in Florida to see the Phillies, and it hit him down there. And he went to the emergency room, and they said, "Well, here's some cream, here's some stuff. Go home. You're okay."
Wow.
And he gets home the next day. He said, "I thought I was dying." He really did, and he went to Johns Hopkins then, where they actually figured out what it was. It's something like acne something, ACNE. Some kind of disease,
Okay.
but it's an autoimmune disease, very similar to Guillain-Barré, which is that one that will paralyze you for like a year, and then you start to get your movement back. And he's going through all kinds of things every day right now just to learn how to. He couldn't walk yesterday when I saw him, and learning how to walk again.
So it doesn't hit everybody,
No.
but it hits people in a just spotty manner.
Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely, and a really strange disease, and he looked like he's been through it. I mean, it's about a good guy. His spirit is still strong, and but he said to say hello to everybody, and
Get well soon.
yes, and that's exactly what we said too. So many tariffs, by the way, take effect today. As of 12:01 this morning, you are now in the tariff world. The U.S. began enforcing President Trump's reciprocal tariffs on imports from dozens of countries, including 104% tariff on China, who they say is not playing well with others. The president continues to assert that America is in the driver's seat, boasting yesterday that countries have been calling on us and kissing my blank. Trump said Japan, and that'll help. Trump says Japan and South Korea are set to fly in to discuss tariffs, while Italy's prime minister will be with the Trump administration next week. Despite his desire for quote-unquote highly tailored deals, many foreign countries, many foreign governments from the Philippines to the United Kingdom are still waiting for clarity and communication, according to Politico. And my chief criticism so far has been that the Trump administration has not been terribly clear on what these are going to look like with everybody.
Levitt, the press secretary out, and I think it was the treasury, not the Treasury Secretary. Who was
it? Bessent?
No, the other one. Can't think of his name. All of a sudden, I'm blanking on it. Has a beard.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
But anyway, yeah, they were both saying that there were no negotiations. There were no negotiations. They were saying that last week.
Yeah, it's just
and now
it's negotiations.
The president says yes, they're negotiations. So it doesn't seem like everybody is on the same page.
Well, yeah, and it's just
and Anthony Scaramucci, remember him?
Yeah,
he was press secretary for like 2 seconds.
2 minutes, yeah.
But he was a money guy. He was
Right.
a Wall Street, still a player there. And he said, knowing what he has seen, why would you call?
Yeah.
Why? Because you don't know what you're going to get.
Because you need us more than we need them. That's the whole premise. Of which this is.
But
which is exactly what Levitt said yesterday in the press conference. But we'll wait and see with that.
Yeah.
Supposedly 70 different countries are now reaching out and talking. But I think for a lot of people, the time is growing short where they want to see something. The talk doesn't feed the bulldog. Now, the president's going to say we're going to get $2 billion a day, but we'll see if that all comes true. With a small team of trade and economic officials, it's apparently proving difficult for the administration to keep up. Caroline Levitt did say yesterday, when America is punched, Trump punches back harder. The week has been rocky for stocks with another down day. Tuesday on Wall Street, they were up most of the day, and then they ended up down right at the end. Trump says Beijing wants to make a deal, but they just don't know how to get it started because they're proud people. Meanwhile, an internal dispute has escalated between President Trump's advisors, Elon Musk, and the guy you were talking about, Peter Navarro. Mark was another name that we were talking about over the tariffs. I think Musk, if I'm not mistaken, called Navarro as dumb as a
moron.
No, it was as dumb as a bag of bricks. That was it when it came to this. So that doesn't sound too good. And so, that's what's going on today. We'll take a break. We'll come back with more here. Michael Gear joins us from the Pennsylvania Family Institute. It's 6:30.
The Andy Griffith Show, starring Andy Griffith, with Ronnie Howard. Also starring Don Knotts.
I didn't know Opie got second billing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Didn't deserve first billing until he started making movies. And then that's what happened. Ron Howard started to go out and actually become a true movie maker. Anyway, with that this morning at 6:35, we welcome in Michael Geer, president of the Pennsylvania Family Institute. Michael, good morning. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's great to have you back. And I was reading an interesting story this morning. This whole guys playing in women's sports thing has been on the front page a lot. And I was reading about a Christian school in Vermont. Did you see this story at all? They're taking their religious freedom fight from the basketball court to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals in New York. Arguments are set for sometime after 10 a.m. this morning in the case that centers on the school's exclusion from the state's athletic association after it forfeited a girls' basketball game against a team with a transgender athlete. Mid-Vermont Christian School argues that state education officials penalized them for acting in accordance with their religious beliefs. Coach Chris Godwin tells Fox that he's cautiously optimistic about the hearing. The Vermont Principals Association, which runs state athletics in Vermont, issued a statement when the lawsuit was originally filed, stating that this Christian school cannot impose its beliefs on students from other public and private schools. A decision is expected in the next month or two, and it could decide if Mid-Vermont is able to compete in the state league as the case plays out. Really interesting case here as it starts to get involved with what they can do in terms of imposing their beliefs on other people in that league. Interesting thought this morning. Just wonder what you might think about that on first blush.
Well, I had heard a little bit about that case. I didn't know that it had moved this far along to be going before the court so soon. But it is exemplary of what we see happening around the country with kind of an ideological sort of debate that's going on with those who understand the biological reality and the strength of men and women's men's bodies over women, the variation there. And then those who want to continue the recent practice of allowing boys who claim to be girls to participate in girl sports. We know that's unfair. About 80% of the polls show that 80% of the American people think that girl sports should be segregated. It should just be girls, biological girls, and so we have these kinds of conflicts then arising like what we see in Vermont.
What happened in Vermont is kind of interesting because it would not happen in Pennsylvania right now because Pennsylvania has gone along with the president's directive that there are no guys allowed to play in women's sports. And so that's, I believe I'm correct on that.
Well, yeah, PIAA has basically come down in that position. They're still a little bit squishy about it, about the way they have stated those sorts of things. But we see local school districts, Philadelphia, some other places, Colonial School District in Bucks County, are some that have said, no, we're going to continue to allow the girls playing, the boys to play in girls sports, the transgender situation. So again, the conflict arises based on the ideological viewpoint of those who sort of pull the strings and rule the roost in terms of the school decisions. And so it's not a big surprise coming out of a state like Vermont, or we see the governor of Maine who said they're going to resist this sort of thing as well. So there are regions of the country that I guess you would describe as more progressive or liberal that are continuing to push back against common sense and against what the president has said.
It is interesting here that this Mid-Vermont Christian school says that in accordance with their religious beliefs, they could not in good conscience play against these other teams. And, we have a lot of Christian schools that play here. In fact, some who won state championships this year in basketball. You look at that and say, well, that is a tricky area here where you're saying, okay, our individual beliefs of our school don't coincide with, this group coming in and bringing in someone who is a transgender person and is playing in sports, and that the PIA has said you can't do that. I'm glad that we didn't have to worry about that controversy this year, but nevertheless, it does kind of exist potentially out there, right?
Right, and you know, it's kind of interesting that they have taken that tack there in Vermont, and the principals, the athletic association up there are saying that they can't impose their beliefs on the rest of the schools.
Right.
Well, in reality, there's a small group of people who are imposing their belief that because a boy declares suddenly says, "I am now a woman or a girl," that is true, and that they are a woman or a girl, is a particular belief that doesn't align with reality. And then that's being imposed upon all of the athletes in Vermont. That's the real story there, is that this nonsense, honestly nonsense, because biological reality is true. There is no, it's not a mental state that makes you suddenly a girl to be able to compete. We see it all the time with the strength, the physical ability of boys going into then compete against girls, puts girls in danger. It eliminates fairness. It creates a situation where there is no reality that there is girl sports anymore, and it violates Title IX.
How do we get to a point where, in Vermont, for example, this kind of stuff can be seen as, I won't say the majority opinion, but maybe the fairest way of looking at things, and somehow the freedom of religion, or the freedom to basically play boys in boys sports, girls in girls sports, somehow became the minority opinion, or at least that's the perception that people have. I'm not probably asking that as well as I should, but maybe you get my point.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, this has really only been a debate, if you will, in the last few milliseconds of human history. I mean, the reality of the difference between men and women is recognized in our law. It's recognized in reality. It's recognized throughout human history. And yet this ideology has come along and said, no. If someone feels like they're a woman, they feel like they're a girl, then they are. And then we get to the absurdity of things like we no longer use terms, and there's legislation introduced in Pennsylvania now that refuses to use the word mother when they talk about breastfeeding and things. They call about parent and chest feeders and all sorts of things. So it's a complete perversion and twisting of reality. How we got here is that we started to say that certain things that we know to be true are not true. It's kind of the emperor has no clothes. If we say something is true, then that's the fact, and it's not just what we say or what we think, but there are objective realities that exist in creation, in the world, and we just need to recognize them.
Well, it seems like we're trying to get self-fulfilling prophecies here by doing linguistic gymnastics, if you will, or semantic gymnastics by saying, okay, well, we don't like what that means, so we're going to take away, the fact breastfeeding, we're now going to call it something else. We're going to use a lot of these different terms, and somehow that is seen as a progressive way of moving forward. I don't know that it's a progressive way of moving forward. I think it's just a matter of changing what you don't like and pretending it's something else.
Yeah. And I would say, we had this debate on the issue of marriage. Marriage has historically and throughout all of human history been the union of a man and a woman, male and female. And just in the last, milliseconds of history, we've said maybe marriage is something different, and maybe we can let two men or two women marry. That has become embraced and accepted, and yet it is a change, not just in linguistics, but in the reality of what marriage is. And that opened the floodgates then to say, okay, well, if we can redefine that, we can redefine what is a male, what is a female. We can just kind of create the world to be the way we think it ought to be. But there are physical realities. There are transcendent truths and objective realities that no matter what linguistics or language you try to use, they're still going to come back and say, no, this is the way it is. And when you put a male on a playing field with women, the likelihood is they're going to be stronger, faster, and everything else. And we had a state senator just a couple of weeks ago, Lindsey Williams from Pittsburgh, say in a legislative hearing that female bodies are just as strong, just as fast, and just as capable as male bodies. That we posted that online. It's got almost 1 million views because everybody says that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I saw Planned Parenthood Pennsylvania advocates just blasted out, and this was on your website at pafamily.org, urging them to oppose the Save Women's Sports Act, SB 9, which is the bill that would ensure girls and women's athletic competitions are just that, fair and safe competitions for girls and women. But it says in here, but in their rush to champion an extreme ideological agenda, Planned Parenthood revealed just how far removed they are from reality. This sentence stood out, quote, transgender women are women, and just as abortion has existed as long as pregnancy has existed, transgender women have existed as long as people have existed, quote unquote. What is that?
Yeah, I'm not even sure what that is.
Yeah.
That's a rewriting of history to fit in with an ideological concept, a novel ideological concept that has just arrived on the scene just recently. And eventually it's going to right itself. I think that just reality smacks us in the face. It just is what it is. And we can make claims and sort of strut out our chest, if you will, push out our chest and say, no, we object to reality, but reality always wins in the end.
Well, and the idea of this is the way it is because I say this is the way it is, that doesn't really play terribly well. I think you're right. We may swing back the pendulum in another direction here, I hope, back to at least where there's some common sense on this whole deal. Listen, if things are progressive and move forward, I'm all in favor. But when they become kind of regressive in terms of taking us back to the basest part of us, I'm not so sure that's very progressive at all. Michael, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I always appreciate the conversation. And people can find you at pafamily.org. And we look forward to catching up with you again next week, my friend.
Thank you, Gary. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Take care. Michael Geer, president of the Pennsylvania Family Institute, right here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK, where it is 6:47 on a Wednesday morning. Back with more right after this. That is that like a UFO show or something?
It was the X-Files
Okay.
on Fox for quite a few years. I always liked it.
Yeah, I watched it somewhat, and it was okay. I mean, I used to watch. I never watched it on a regular basis, but I watched some of it, and there were some good stories there. Yeah.
Mulder, and I forget what her name was.
Yeah, she became quite the actress. Said later on, beyond that,
They actually both you see them every once in a while.
I just saw him out on a commercial the other night, and I said, "Oh, that's that guy that was on the X-Files."
Yes.
But what was his name on that?
David Duchovny.
David Duchovny. Yeah, and he was out. He's kind of sunk down. He's looking for work right now. He's apparently
It's okay.
doing some
They had their
commercials.
time in the sun.
They did for a moment or so. Pennsylvanians, by the way, are getting a little nervous right now about their 401ks and their investment accounts, as you might expect. The volatility of the stock market, it's fallen 10% in the last 3 days, the last 3 trading days, that is causing retirement accounts to fall accordingly. And again, if you are looking to retire right now, that might concern you. If you're not, you most times ride it out. We're going to ask that question to Ryan Fox today about that, because I'm sure that's going to be a lot of people's minds. He'll be our major guest on that this morning at 8:05. But I was reading about this. They were interviewing a teacher from Cumberland Valley High School, and he says he's approximately 3 years from retirement. He plans to rely partly on money from his 401k to pay for both his children's college tuition and for health insurance before becoming eligible for Medicare. He said, at this point, I'm going to have less and less money to purchase that health insurance because that's the money I put away that I've invested to pay for those types of expenses. No matter what the stock market is, the tuition bill does come up very regularly. Portfolio managers say clients have been calling over the past several days asking for advice. They say their advice for investors is to know where their comfort level is and how much time they have before retirement. So that's one of the things that they're talking about. If you're retiring right now, you might be a little bit antsy about that. President Trump has vowed to continue his tariff policies and threatened an additional 50% on China, which he's put on there, by the way, on top of the current 54% rate. That 104% kicks in today. All right. And so meanwhile, Senator Dave McCormick, our new senator, said, let's give it a little time. He's, of course, a big guy in finance, now U.S. Senator. He said Monday after touring an East Pittsburgh manufacturing facility that it's too soon to pass judgment on the sweeping tariffs. He said there's a lot of uncertainty over the tariffs right now. I think over the coming days and weeks, a lot of that uncertainty will be eliminated and we'll have more clarity. The tariffs have sent U.S. and global markets tumbling since being announced Wednesday. On Monday, financial firm Goldman Sachs issued a new forecast pinning the likelihood of a recession at 45%, up from 35% last week and 20% the week before that. President Trump has said tariffs can raise money for the U.S. Treasury, protect U.S. industries, draw factories to the United States, and serve as a negotiating tactic to get other countries to bend to his will, whether it means getting them to reduce their own tariffs or crack down on the illegal flow of drugs and immigrants into the United States. So he's counting on a lot of those things to be cured by tariffs. He has been a tariffs guy ever since, even before he was president, way back in the 80s. If you ever look back at some of the tape, he's been a tariff guy for a long time. So like I said, he's banking the whole farm on this one and putting all the money on the table, and we'll see if it works.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense if you're, this is, in his mind, this is going to pay for everything.
Yeah.
This is going to wipe out the debt. This is going to have the ability to make huge tax cuts and
Bring a lot of money into the country.
Right. So if you believe that this is what they will do, then, it seems like an obvious answer. But if that were the case, they would have been tried. Well, and they had been tried a couple of times.
Actually,
Smoot-Hawley. And
it's not been tried on this level by any recent modern president. No, it was tried years ago. In fact, before the income tax, this was our chief way of raising money. But now it's been something that we've not used in a long time. And, I was talking yesterday. In fact, I was talking with Charlie Giroux yesterday when I was visiting with him. And I said, this guy is pushing it all in on the poker game. He said, I'm betting the whole thing on this. And I said, if he loses, if he loses, and I'm going to make kind of a bold prediction right here, and I normally don't do that, but the Republican Party is going to be hit for years to come. I'm just telling you.
You don't think they would turn on him?
They might, but it might be too late because people are still going to blame him. A lot of them come in on his coattails, and a lot of them will go out in his coattails if I think this fails. And I think.
Well, do you think if they think that their jobs are on the line, that they would?
Oh, I don't. You're already seeing it. You're already seeing a number of Republicans fighting back, saying, "Well, we ought to be doing some things on this right now too." It's almost like they're saying, "Well, we don't. We hear what people are saying." We hear what our constituents are telling us back home. We hear people looking at their 401ks. People are getting a little antsy. People are not used to having to be inconvenienced for a while over this. So if it works, they'll all be up there crowing. Right. If it doesn't work, you're going to see backstabbing like you haven't seen in a long time. And I think you will see, it won't be the death of the Republican Party, but it'll be put on life preserver for a while. And I'm just making that comment because this is so big that it's putting everybody in the same boat.
Yeah, the part of the argument that always doesn't really ring true is the United States, with the biggest economy in the world, is somehow a victim, and I never quite understood how are we a victim? I mean, we could have been a bigger number one economy in the world.
I think we are, in the sense that a lot of the deals that we had prior to now came out of, for example, like post-World War I. Right. And that they're very dated.
World War II.
World War II, forgive me.
Yes.
World War II.
Okay.
And that they are outdated, and that they, with Europe having recovered now, that they could be much, much better and much more in our interests to do that. I get some of that. I just think that there's a lot more, and I don't think it's a one size fits all kind of thing. I think there's a lot of
more
particulars in here, nuanced things. Nuance is the word I was looking for. Nuanced things that need to be explained, because I think there are a lot of different kinds of relationships that we have with countries, depending upon where they were and where they are now, that we have to look at. And so I think, and I do think the language is something too. This idea of ripped off and all that kind of stuff. I for one am critical of that because I don't think it's needed. I think there is some statesmanship involved. The president is like a blunt instrument. I understand that, and that's how he talks, and that's what he does. I just don't know if it serves us well. Now, again, what we hear out in front is maybe not what we're hearing behind the scenes, but we'll wait and see what happens with all that. One of the guys who talks about that kind of language is Jeff Coleman, and he's going to join us next. He's a co-host of Morning Light on Lighthouse TV with Deborah Pinkerton, and he's a guy that knows how to be a statesman and talk in that language. We'll ask him if ripped off and words like that are serving well. It makes us feel good and pump out our chest, but is it really getting things solved? That's what we want to find out, and we'll get a thought from Jeff on that when he joins us this morning at 7:05 on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. Right now it is 7 o'clock.
York's only local show is back on its new home on York's only local station.
Guess who's back? Back again.
This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
I'm back.
Now, broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios inside Wellspan Park, here's Gary Sutton.
And welcome back to the Main Street of America in York County. It is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK, brought to you by the Barley Snyder Law Firm. Barley.com is where you can find them, innovative legal solutions for your business. They are a law firm for today's business world. So glad to have them aboard, and so glad to have you aboard this morning on a Wednesday morning. You can text us at 833-478-4729. I am Gary Sutton. Mark McKenzie is here this morning.
Hey, our
Some
food
holidays. Yes.
Yes, food holidays, and they're kind of connected a little bit.
Oh.
Although, well, it's National Dive Bar Day.
Dive Bar Day, okay. Do you go to dive bars a lot?
No.
I can't remember the last dive bar I went to.
Yeah, not. I remember it.
Diners, drive-ins, and dives, right?
No, yeah, it's the dirty old tavern.
Dirty Old Tavern. What a great name! Huh?
I think it's in Lancaster, just outside of Lancaster.
Kind of an excuse
City.
not to clean.
The Dirty Old Tavern. They had these like
dirty
meatballs or something that they only served on New Year's Day. I think I'm remembering that right.
Yeah,
I could be a little wrong. It was the only time I was there. But conversely,
They have a vacuum there or anything?
I don't know, Dive Bar Day.
The Dirty Old Tavern.
And then on the other side, it is National Gin and Tonic Day. Doesn't seem like the kind of drink you would get at a dive bar.
No, especially the Dirty Old Tavern.
But gin and tonic, very refreshing, and especially I recommend higher quality spirits. So Beefeater's, Tanqueray.
Which again, you probably would not find at the Dirty Old Tavern.
True enough.
Right.
True,
Good.
yes. Guy, that gin in the bathtub.
Yeah, right. Jeez, the Dirty Old Tavern. I remember
that's
being in
right.
Ireland.
Yes.
And I went to this tavern. It was supposedly one of the oldest taverns in Ireland. I was going up to the Cliffs of Moher.
Wow.
And we're driving. So we stopped at this place, and Liscanter or something like that was the name of the town.
Mm-hmm.
And you had like its open door, and you walk into this bar, this pub, and you stand at the counter. Well, they had a dog lying over on the floor.
Oh.
He looked like he hadn't moved in years. I mean, he was just lying there.
Maybe he was pickled.
You know what? When we came back down, we stopped again on the way back from the Cliffs of Moher, stopped at this place, and they had a soup going, and the dog wasn't there anymore. And I don't know. I had bad feelings about that.
Oh, that's terrible.
What's this? I didn't ask what the soup was
It's
made
terrible.
of. But it was terrible. I'm just.
They're eating
I'm
our
just
dogs,
saying,
our pets.
The dog wasn't there. Maybe he went out. Maybe he got up and left, and I don't know. Anyway, with that, we turn to Jeffrey Coleman this morning, co-host of Morning Light with Deborah Pinkerton. And good morning, Jeffrey. How are you?
Oh, that's a real intro there.
Well, the dog wasn't there.
I was thinking of the Oyster House in Pittsburgh, which is no longer a dirty old tavern.
Okay.
But, the Oyster House, I think it's the oldest restaurant in Pittsburgh. It's right there on Market Square, and they have the latrine is right in front of the bar.
Oh, good. Great. That's
so very convenient back in the day to keep your customers there the whole night.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, this show has disintegrated this morning into something that, I don't know. Anyway.
That's a dirty old tavern.
Well, yeah, the dirty old tavern. That is a dirty old tavern.
Contribution there.
Well, and by heavens, you've made a great one here this morning, too, unbeknownst to you. Anyway, great to have you in.
My pleasure.
I've got to ask you. A lot of people you live in a world where you're a great wordsmith. You also are a good idea guy, and you're a guy that has a lot of character. A lot of people, I think, are becoming weary of big, beautiful bills. This is a beautiful thing, and no one's ever seen anything like this before, and all the generalities, and we're talking to this country today, and this country's coming over here, and 70 countries are going to, talk to us about tariffs. And meanwhile, a lot of people are saying, wait a second, where's the reality? What is the reality here? We're hearing about all the talk, but are we seeing the things happen that you said you would do? Now, we see where you're trying to do what you said you'd do, and yet so far we're met with a lot of talk. How do people bridge that gap between what's being said and what's being done? I think that's kind of where a lot of people are sitting right now here in the country on so many different issues. Your thoughts, especially tariffs.
Well, President Trump has had he's a gifted marketer and a gifted salesman. He's always been able to close the deal before the product was even created. And, this has been kind of his history in business with from water to airplanes to high rises. I mean, just any number of products. Trade is something that he has taken out full-page ads, went on Donahue in the 80s. I mean, in the early 80s, right. He was talking about these theories about how you could punish those who were taking advantage of American companies. And I think the initial target was probably Japan, and that's expanded to China. And he knew this. His gift is that he's able to pick up kind of the common sense wisdom from the cabbie, from the construction worker, from the guy who's repairing the escalator at Trump Tower. I mean, his gifting is not to be underestimated, which is that he has the common sense access to common sense. And unlike a lot of wealthy people, he didn't stop listening to them. But I think it's also a little bit like getting a stock tip from, the guy down the street or someone who works the drive-through. Some days it'll work. Other days it won't. In the meantime, though, his persona has been never, ever, ever sweat, never show a regret or an apology. It's always an advancement. And this is something that he really trained himself to do over the years when you're dealing with all of those authorities and licensing agencies in New York who were not always honest. Right. We're always, there was always a little something under the table that he had to confront. So he dealt with these tough guys that way. I just think we're missing a whole piece here, which is that there's a sophistication and a pride on the other side of these tariff negotiations that haven't begun yet, where entire countries, have their people saying, you don't make a deal with that man. He is vulgar. He's embarrassing us. He is shaming us. And all. We're not. So they're not in a position right now because he's not given a grace moment or an opportunity to show the other side of Trump. All the people in Europe, people in Southeast Asia, specifically China, what they're seeing is only the public side, the bullying.
Right.
They're not seeing the charm of the guy from New York.
Well, and you wonder if maybe behind the scenes they're saying, okay, you heard what I'm saying out there in public, but let's talk. You wonder if there's not that going on, or at least people representing us saying, okay, we know what he's saying, but you know how the public bluster goes. Here we are now. We're sitting down at the table here. We're negotiating. Let's talk. Let's get serious here. All that other stuff is political bluster, and that's Trump being Trump. But in reality, here's what he really wants. Do you sense that there's that going on behind or not?
Well, there's always a little bit of that, and there is some truth to what he was saying last night, which is, there are people calling me up saying, sir, I want to make a deal. Tell me how I can make a deal. And those are countries like Vietnam. Those are countries maybe like Bangladesh or Cambodia,
right,
that are involved in heavy production of they're the ones with the environmental issues with all the dye going into the river from their garment manufacturing companies, and they're producing what American consumers have been demanding, which is low price, low cost T-shirts and jeans. Now, I don't think though that is enough for us to dismiss all of Europe or some of our friendly trading partners. I just think there should have probably been a different language with friends than adversaries.
Yeah, I agree with you.
By putting them all together, I think that was a challenge.
I don't think the words ripped off and things like that sit well. I just don't. I think that, and again,
they don't even translate.
No,
they don't translate well.
Those people are saying, "What the hell is he talking about? We don't even know."
Right, correct.
And so you're looking at this and saying, okay, we have to redo. For example, if he say, okay, listen. A lot of the deals that we have are with countries in Europe that were recovering from World War II. Well, obviously, they've recovered now. Now maybe it's time to redo some deals. Let's rethink this. Let's reimagine what we can do. Maybe that's a better way of going about it than saying, well, you're ripping us off as a European Union, and you were formed strictly to go against the United States. Well, that doesn't
That's right.
That's not a great place to start at, I don't believe, is it?
I think some of our allies have been trying to give us an out. King Charles, for example, offering the second state dinner really was an off-ramp for him to diplomatically approach this and be able to say, look, the King, England, respects Trump, respects the United States, treating them as, as a real brother, a comrade across the Atlantic. But the rhetoric there has, unfortunately, he's been lumping even our closest ally in Europe with the European Union. So some of that language is just it's not precise enough. I understand the president has always been very good about, he's never wanted to talk above people. Mm-hmm. He's always wanted to speak to people. But you don't use the same language, I don't think, the same language when you're negotiating a trade deal as you might at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Right. You may not use the same language across the table in Munich, London. That there's just a different diplomacy and a tact that I think needs to be there.
You got to be a statesman at that point on some level.
Correct.
Maybe his statesmanship won't be the same as, let's say, a Ronald Reagan or someone like that, although Reagan is the guy who called the Russia the evil empire, but he was very careful in how he went about doing all of that. I was talking last night, and I was talking this morning about Charlie Giroux, our friend who has been in bed for 5 weeks now. Was at Johns Hopkins, is in a place now where he is rehabbing, can't walk. I mean, I was up visiting yesterday. We were talking. I said, I said, it's interesting, as he asked me about what I thought about the whole political thing going on. Yeah. He said, we're in a situation right now where Trump is all in. I mean, he's put all of the poker chips on the table. He's put all his money on the table. He's walking the high wire. There's no net underneath, however you want to say it. And I think if he would fail, the Republican Party takes a hit, which might take years to recover from. Am I wrong on that assessment? What do you think about that, Jeff?
Well, first, I did not know about Charlie, and thank you for telling me about that. I'll reach out to him. I think that you both are right in the sense that the president has about 200 plates spinning at the same time. What is going to happen, I think, is you're hearing some cracks with Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, others who have historically been opponents of President Trump. If you're an opponent of President Trump, and there are significant numbers of them, you are waiting, biding your time, supporting the things that you think you could support, knowing that you would not get reelected if you did not support him.
Right.
The problem is once there is a vulnerability that looks it's not recoverable, it is the same way I think Donald Trump would have been treated by the bankers when Trump Casino failed or these other enterprises.
Exactly.
Which they run in the other direction. Politicians are not generally known, as you know, for loyalty and courage in all situations.
Correct.
So I think he's exposing himself so far, including with some of the members of his cabinet, that he's got to be very cautious in finding a way to keep people on board, and that wouldn't take much. Just a little kindness, a little charm, just a little change in tact.
We'll see if that comes to pass. I don't know, but it is an interesting time that we watch, and we like to have conversation and examination here. That's what we're doing this morning, trying to do it in a realistic way, and not disliking Trump, not liking Trump, just a matter of figuring out what's going on in our world around us. What do you have going on this morning on Morning Light?
We're going to be talking about families and the fact there's this brand new study out a couple weeks ago about American happiness. And there's one big warning sign, and that is people 30 and under in America are just not happy. Ooh. And one of the reasons they indicate that those people under 30 are not happy is because they're not engaged in families. They're not part of families. They're not getting married. They're not having children. And the home, the family, is one of these laboratories where you learn how to help each other.
Wow.
And if you're doing life alone, there is a pretty high propensity that you're going to be an unhappy person. And America's 30 and unders, over 60%, are just not happy right now.
I will be anxious to see that. That's going to be this morning, start at 9 o'clock on
Yeah.
Morning Light, Jeff Coleman, Deborah Pinkerton there, and on Lighthouse TV and Channel 49 here locally. You can watch it. Jeff, always good stuff. Thank you so much for a great conversation this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend. We'll be praying for Charlie.
Have a wonderful day. Yes, please do. Gary Sutton here with Jeffrey Coleman on a Wednesday morning here on WOYK. When we come back, we check in with John from Yanni's Gyros on what they have going on over there today. And I'll be there at 12 o'clock today having lunch. You're welcome to join me. And then at 7:35, Julie Wheeler, President Commissioner of the York County Commissioners, joins us here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. It is the main street of America and York County. Back with more right after this.
Fox Sports Update.
The Nuggets have stunned the NBA world. Denver has fired championship-winning coach Michael Malone with just 3 games remaining on their regular season schedule. Malone was in his 10th year as head coach of the Nuggets, leading Denver to 8 consecutive winning seasons and an NBA championship in 2023. He has the most wins in franchise history, and the move ties the latest coaching change in NBA history that, according to ESPN, with the postseason right around the corner, Denver is 15 games over 500 and fighting for home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs, but the team has struggled as of late, losing 4 straight and in danger of dropping into the play-in tournament. Also out in Denver, general manager Calvin Booth will not have his contract extended. In baseball news, former Major League pitcher Octavio Dotel is among those who died after a roof collapse at a nightclub in the Dominican Republic. Officials say at least 58 people have died and another 160 have been injured. Totel spent 15 years in the big leagues, recording 109 saves, including logging 36 saves for the Astros and the Athletics in 2004. Totel won a World Series with the Cardinals in 2011, was the fifth of six Astros pitchers to combine for a no-hitter against the Yankees in 2003, and played for 13 teams during his career. Staying in baseball, the Yankees are on a losing streak. New York has now dropped their last 3 contests, falling to the Tigers 5-0 today. Detroit did most of its damage in the 4th inning, launching 3 home runs, capped off by this solo shot from catcher Dylan Dingler.
That's a long fly ball. Dylan Dingler to left. It is out of here. A barrage in the 4th inning.
That sound was courtesy of the FanDuel Sports Network. The Detroit Tigers improved to 7-4 after losing their first 3 games of the season. And you can download the Fox Sports Podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you download your favorite podcasts. I'm Joe Morgan.
Get more on the Fox Sports app and foxsports.com.
And, of course, the Orioles losing the Diamondbacks last night 4-3, and a close one there as the Orioles now down 5-7. The Phillies lost to the Braves last night 7-5.
They were up early, but
did not go well for them. And well, I'll tell you where it is going well right now, though. At Yanni's. Yanni's Gyros right out there at 310 Town Center Drive at West Manchester Township, or West Manchester. It's in West Manchester Township, but West Manchester Town Center. And with us this morning is John from Yanni's Gyros to talk a little bit about the fact I'm going to be out there today at 12 o'clock meeting with people as I do every single Wednesday. But they've always got something great out there at Yanni's Gyros with that Mediterranean food. And John, good morning. How you doing, my friend?
Good morning. Very good. And yourself?
Well, good. You're like a one-armed paper hanger with an itch, though. I mean, you got Yanni's out there. You got the new Yanni's you're getting ready to open up on the other side of town. You've got Yanni's up at Hershey Park. You got Yanni's up at Hershey. I mean, how do you ever sleep, my friend?
I don't. I just keep bouncing from place to place.
But the one thing that's a constant in all those places is that great Mediterranean food that you're so famous for now. And Yanni's has become a big hit here in New York. I know people are coming from everywhere to get out and try your food. What is it about your place that you think people find so attractive?
I think it's just, the good quality of food and the friendly atmosphere.
Yeah, it is a friendly atmosphere. You walk through the door, you're always going to get a smile, whether it's your mom, Maria, there, or your dad, Chris, or you, or your wife, Amanda, or Charlene, or Elisa, or any of the people out there, right there at 310 Town Center in New York. I'll tell you what, I go out there regularly, as you well know, and I love the souvlaki. I love the meat on a stick. You guys have just the right char on the chicken and the pork when you make it there in the grill. How do you do that so well all the time? Is it just a lot of practice or what?
Yeah, I was going to say practice makes perfect.
And your dad, Chris, it seems like he's having a great time. I was over there one day watching him put the piece of chicken on there, and then you shave it down the side to make the perfect gyro. Your gyros are some of the biggest gyros I've ever seen in my life. When you talk about this kind of food, one of the things that I think people sometimes don't understand, it's very, very healthy, right?
Yep, you're correct.
And lots of
Mediterranean diet, yep.
Yeah, exactly right. Lots of lettuce. You can get it in a bowl. You can get it in the gyro form. The tzatziki sauce on it is unbelievable. But you've got some other things on the menu, too, that people can try. Like, for example, your hamburgers are off the charts. Tell people a little bit about that, John.
Yep. We have all-American cheeseburger, and then we have the Greek burger, which is topped with feta cheese, red onions, and tomatoes. So you get a little bit of everything. If you're not going to be too adventurous with the traditional Greek cuisine, we have more of your traditional American staples, also with chicken tenders.
And I'll tell you what, those hamburgers are about as thick as any hamburger I've ever had, and juicy inside. They are so good. And the other thing you have things like moussaka. I think I'm saying that correctly. And the other thing that is like a Greek lasagna, which is really, really good. Tell people about that, too.
Yep, that one there is our pasticcio. It's baked bechamel sauce with ground beef and ziti noodles.
And I'm telling you what, it is something to die for. And the moussaka is just off the charts. Then you turn to the right as you come into the place there, and you see the dessert case where your mother makes these sinful desserts that I tell you what are some of the best you're ever going to have in your life. Do you have a favorite dessert as you were growing up when your mom made desserts? Did she make one that was a favorite for you?
Oh, there was all of them.
I don't know how you stayed so thin, though, John. I mean, you did a pretty good job of staying slim along the way, but she makes an ekmek out there. I think I'm saying that correctly. where it has like these custards inside. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to stop out there and try the whole thing. And you also have bowls. If you don't like to have the bread kind of thing, they have bowls there. And I swear to heaven, I was out there with Tim Barker last week, our district attorney, and Tim was eating his bowl, and he said, I think it's growing. I don't think it's going down. It's growing. You have enough to take home there for days to come, right?
Yep, that's correct. And we have the bowls come with any kind of meat on top, or you can go with one of our vegetarian options, like the falafel.
And one other thing, there is a gyro that you have that I tried the other week. I believe it's called the Hercules gyro. It has like, 2 different kinds of meat in there, and it is just fantastic. Tell people about the Hercules gyro.
Bring your appetite. It's got our traditional gyro meat inside, lettuce, tomato, onion, tzatziki sauce, and it's stuffed full of fries.
Ladies and gentlemen, speaking of fries, the best boardwalk fries you're ever going to have. Fresh cut fries every day. They're all right there at Yanni's, and I make a big deal because it is a big deal. You can get out there today and have lunch with me at 12. And the great thing, John, you're open every day, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., right?
Yep, that's correct, every day.
And whether you want to have carry-out, you want to eat in, they have a great atmosphere in there. You can eat in like I do all the time, or you can carry out. Give them a call at 717-885-0710. That's 717-885-0710. You can go to their website there. They're at 310 Town Center Drive. Make it your place to go, especially today. I'm going to be out there, and I'd love to meet with you, and you'll have a lot of fun, and you'll be greeted by a smile free of charge every time you walk in the door at Yanni's Gyros right there at 310 Town Center Drive in West Manchester Township. John, thanks so much. I really appreciate it, and thanks for really bringing a big hit here to York. I know people are enjoying it, and they're going to continue to enjoy that for a long time to come. Thank you, my friend.
Well, thank you very much. Look forward to seeing everybody.
Have a great day. John, at Yanni's Gyros, 310 Town Center Drive. I'll be there at 12 today. Stop out and see me. I'm Gary Sutton at 7:30. When we come back, Julie Wheeler, our President Commissioner of the York County Commissioners, joins us all here on The Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. You only need but 4 notes there to know what this song is. It is TV Theme Wednesday, right?
Yep. And
The Addams Family.
The Addams Family. It was Fred Gwynn. Oh, there you go. Go ahead.
They're all together. Ookie, the Addams Family. The house is a museum. When people come to see them, they really are a scream. The Addams Family.
And, they don't have those cool, themes anymore with words, that you can learn.
You take I just said to Mark off air, I said, you take the first 4 notes of this and you know exactly what it is. How many of those can you say, I can name that theme in 4 notes?
Not many.
Like,
well, we're going to try.
That one. Dun, 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 dun. There it is. So you already know what it is. Dun, dun, dun. Dun. There it is, the Andy Griffith Show. I mean,
is that what it is?
In most of these, you could probably do it in like
True.
4 or 5 notes, right?
True.
I'm just saying.
Yes.
Of a certain age.
Of a certain age. That's the thing.
Yeah, because you mentioned something a moment ago, I think it was really profound, and not profane, profound, and it was that we don't make those themes anymore.
We don't.
It just, and it kind of lamenting that a little bit.
We need a little creativity.
Do you think it's because we're getting older? When I was a boy, they made themes. I'll tell you what.
I don't know.
Anyway, with that, we turn to the much younger and more erudite Julie Wheeler, president of the York County Commissioners, who probably has all these themes memorized. Good morning, Julie. How are you?
Good morning, Gary. I like that younger adjective. I'll take it.
You are. I mean, you are like a young kid compared to us. I mean, we're sitting here talking about these dated themes like the Addams Family, and you would not know anything about that because of your youth and whatever.
But I would. But hey, I got one for you.
Go ahead.
Da-dum. Think about movie.
Da-dum. Oh, Jaws.
Jaws, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I got it. See right away. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, there was did John Williams write that? I don't know. I think he did.
I don't know.
John Williams wrote that, I think, and in one of his lapses of moment. But anyway, hey, great to have you in this morning. Before I get myself in trouble, we don't talk about women in age that often, and Julie, ever effervescent and ever youthful, comes in here every Wednesday morning. So did I get myself out of any potential danger? That's the question. But what do you have for us today? You're always looking at something interesting going on in the county. And what's happening?
I had 2 things. I wanted to touch base just for a few minutes. We talked about last week that April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And I just wanted to share some statistics with your listeners. We are going to be planting some blue flags later today outside of our public safety building in recognition of Child Abuse Prevention Month. But when we look at York County, in 2023, we had 270 cases of child abuse or neglect in York County. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And, just when you stop and think about and recognize that behind those numbers are 270 faces of innocent kids that we failed to protect as a society. And more tragically, out of those, 2 children died as a result of child abuse and neglect. So I just think April is a great time to make sure this stays on folks' radar, and that, we need to do what we can to protect our kiddos. And if I could just share a number real quick, if anyone suspects abuse or neglect, please support it to the Child Line, which is 800-932-0313.
When you talk about child abuse and neglect, and again, most of us have a vision of what that looks like. And we're getting a little bit of a ring there, Mark. Maybe we can bring that down just a little bit. I don't know. But anyway, it's kind of like a echo. But when we talk about that, can you define abuse? Because abuse comes in a lot of different forms sometimes, and neglect as well. Any thoughts on that, Julie?
It does come in a wide variety of forms. So, you can look at children who are physically being abused by a parent, a friend, a relative, to emotional abuse, to neglect, not being fed, not being taken to the doctor. It's a wide range.
We look at a lot of single-parent families nowadays, and some where mom or dad are working really, really hard, and yet at the same time we have latchkey kids coming home. Sometimes that abuse maybe isn't overt, and yet at the same time it can be every bit as harmful to a child. What are we doing in York County basically to help stay out in front of that and try to help those kind of situations? I see more and more kids' places rising up. I know schools are trying to do some things. Our agencies trying to do some things. Talk about that a little bit if you can, Julie.
So we have some wonderful organizations in the county, and I'll just start with inside county government. Our York County Children, Youth, and Family Services Office deals with a lot of these issues. If you're a parent and you're struggling, don't hesitate to call us and get help. But we look at organizations like the Children's Advocacy Center, the Children's Home of York. We do have lots of resources available in our community, people who are working to deal with kiddos who are being abused or neglected. So that's a good thing.
That's a very good thing, yeah. And at the same time, are there places for parents who are struggling? I mean, we don't get any manuals.
Right.
And, you got to figure it out on your own a lot of times. And again, parents, especially in economic times right now, I remember reading somewhere when I was born back in the 1800s, my parents paid about 5% of all of their money that they made in taxes. Now it's up somewhere by 30%. And a lot of people, point to taxes over the years and point to those kind of things and say, well, parents had to go to work. Two parents had to go to work where one parent could stay home at one point in time. That maybe isn't as realistic now. So for parents who are in those kind of situations where they got to go out, and in some cases they maybe have two jobs or so forth, are there resources they can call? You mentioned a few of them right there. Are there things they can do to get some extra help there within the county organizations?
Yeah, I think one of the best things that they could do in those types of situations is reach out to our Children, Youth, and Families Office as a point, and they can help them direct to where they can go to resources in the community. And that number is 717-846-8496.
It's amazing. A lot of people don't know those kinds of things exist. And I think that's one of the great things about having you on each week, that people can say, oh, there's a resource there that I can go to and I can get some help. So if you know someone who's in that kind of situation, write some of those numbers down. Again, if they don't hear that number today, is there a general place they can go where they can say, okay, let me have them call this number, and is just your county government at large, and they can get you to the right place?
Exactly. That's the best thing they could do, and we can get them to the right place, whether it's within county government or one of the nonprofits we collaborate with. Absolutely.
Julie, I don't think I've ever asked you this question, but I'm going to ask you. What's the role of government right now from your vantage point? You've been in county government now for a number of years. You've been president commissioner during that time. What is the role of government with regard to the people that they represent here in York County?
Well, that's a great question. That maybe I can segue right into the other thing I wanted to talk about today. It's a community survey we're doing. I think that the role of York County government is vast. As you know, there's over 50 departments that we oversee in York County government, whether that's from the prison to emergency management to children, youth, and families to our 11 parks that we have, wide-ranging. And it's important for us as leaders in the community to make sure that we hear from our residents on what's important to them as users of the services we provide, right? We want to make sure that people who live, work, play, and even visit here, what we can do better to make this a great place to live, work, and play. I think the one vantage point we have as county government, because we are so vast in the services we provide, is we can collaborate with other agencies. Maybe things aren't under the direct purview of county government, but if somebody calls in, for example, what we just talked about, parent calls in, needs some help, we can direct them to organizations in our community that can help them. So I think we are a convener for folks in our community to get help and certainly make things better for those who live in our community.
You mentioned about this survey that's going out. I'm interested in that. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, you and I talk a lot of times about the importance of taking lessons learned from business and applying them into county government. And so, when I look back at my 2+ decades at GE and the organizations with GE and outside, successful companies and industries have a philosophy of continuous improvement. We've talked about that a lot.
Right.
So I think that philosophy helps us innovate and improve operations in county government. Starts with a strategic plan, which we've done, but it also requires us to step outside of our echo chamber and our comfort zones and ask those difficult questions to those who use our services. And so that's what we're doing in partnership with the Planning Commission. We have a survey that will be live through June 22nd. You can find that at yorkcountypasurvey.org. And we're asking all kinds of questions, right? What makes York County fun and relaxing? What do you like about York County? How do you find out about community services? It's a very vast survey, and I would encourage all your listeners to participate in it and let folks know that it's out there and available to them.
Now, is that something that'll be coming out to various citizens?
It's online. It went live March 24th.
Okay.
We are also partnering with many of our organizations in York, so the Economic Alliance, the United Way, Farm and Natural Lands Trust, all these collaborative partners, they have it. They're pushing it out to their folks. In addition, we're going to the Dills Celtic Festival, Go Green in the City, Taste of Pennsylvania. So we're going to be out and about through the community between now and June with opportunities for people to participate in the survey.
Yeah, I hope people will, because it's important for you. And here's where I think we fit into the government. Telling you as a representative what we're really interested in and what we like about York County. Maybe some of the things that need improvement, some of the weaknesses we want to make into strengths, some of the strengths we want to make better. Those are all part of being part of Main Street America that we talk about all the time, right?
Exactly.
And Main Street York County, most importantly, in your particular purview. Julie, I really appreciate you taking time to be with us on mornings like this and tell us a little bit about what's going on. And you certainly covered a wide array of things today. Thank you very much. And stay youthful, okay?
All right, my friend. Have a great day.
Thank you, Julie. Take care. Julie Wheeler, our President Commissioner of the York County Commissioners. When that survey comes your way, please fill it out. Okay, it's so important. Check out York County government for all the various services that they offer. I think that's really important. And sometimes, we're not quite sure what they might offer. Just check in and see. There are a lot of different agencies around that can help you as you live here on Main Street America and, yes, Main Street York County. So important. Mark?
So you've been talking. I wish I had $1 for every time you said 401k this morning.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
So, and it's, understandable. But I have,
in relation, a lot of us wish we had our dollars back from the 401k.
Well, speaking of that, maybe the best news for those who especially are retired, looking at their 401ks and being a little concerned, there's a little bit of good news this morning.
Oh, good. And we like good news.
Details next.
We'll do that next when we come back here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. It's 747 on the Main Street of America. And yes, right here in York County. Back after this. Welcome back. Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. That is Seinfeld.
Yeah, pretty easy one. No words to that one, though.
No, but funky. It's got a good song. Jerry Seinfeld, of course, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and Michael, what was his last name?
Richard?
Yeah, he was funny.
Jason Alexander.
Jason Alexander was on there. By the way, if you are... nice day to get out to a sale today, and they have a sale at Thomasville Country Auction coming up at 4 p.m. this afternoon. Yeah, it's furniture, Fisher-Price toys, tools, and collectibles. Try those for in any eclectic kind of sale. Tinker Toys, food grinder, a Pfaff sewing machine, a vacuum child's miniature kitchen cabinet, puzzles, machinist tools, lantern, Department 56, the little houses and so forth. I love that kind of stuff. Folding sports chairs, child sewing machine, Hallmark ornaments, die-cast Ertl banks. I mean, you talk about an eclectic sale. Now, go to ThomasvilleCountryAuction.com and hit auction date on the lower left-hand side, and you will see every item up for bid for today, April 9th, the sale this afternoon at 4 p.m. If you're thinking right now about, well, the weather's getting nicer, maybe it's time for me to have this sale. I've got some things lying around, or maybe you're moving, or you're downsizing quickly, or maybe you just want to get rid of some items that have value, and yet, you just don't have a place for them. Give Jack and Cheryl Hooks a call today, will you? At 717-764-5403, like I did a few years ago when I had a estate sale. And I called Jack and Cheryl. I said, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Would you come out and help me out? And they did that. They answered all my questions. I understood sales a lot better after I talked to them than I did before. They even hauled the items from my house to their auction house, actually from my mom's house to their auction house. And it took 4 sales, but they did a great job on getting rid of those items for me and putting some money in my pocket. And at the same time, letting me have peace of mind in the way they went about doing it. And, when it came to real estate, we sold my mom's house as well through Cheryl. Cheryl saved us a lot of money, a lot of headaches, and a lot of time. And she did a great job with it. I'm telling you what, if you want somebody that knows what they're doing with sales, then you want Jack and Cheryl Hooks at Thomasville Country Auction. Believe me. Call them today. Tell them I sent you, 717-764-5403, or head on out and see them in action this afternoon at Thomasville Country Auction. Route 30 West at the railroad tracks in Thomasville.
So here's the good news.
Go ahead.
If you've been watching, if you're retired, and you've been looking at your 401k, doesn't look that great. So you want to feel better? Well, I think this might put a smile on your face today.
People receiving Social Security benefits will begin seeing an increase of about 2.5% or almost $50 on average. The increase affects more than 72 million U.S. citizens receiving Social Security. The new payments go out today and 2 other times this month, depending on birth dates. The Social Security cost of living, or COLA, increase is designed to help recipients with inflation resulting in rising costs of living expenses. It affects retirees, qualified disabled individuals, and survivors receiving family benefits. Supplemental Security income recipients should have received their payment on April 1st. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
Woohoo!
And if you go to Pittsburgh and go to PNC Park, there is no more beloved name for pirates over the years than probably Roberto Clemente.
True.
Who died, by the way, trying to help other people in Puerto Rico. In a plane crash. But members of the Clemente family walked out of PNC Park Monday morning after meeting with the Pirates front office following the organization's unpopular decision to remove signage dedicated to Pittsburgh legend Roberto Clemente. Now, here's the rest of the story. During the Pirates' home opener on Monday, April 4th, the Pittsburgh Clothing Company posted a picture on social media showcasing Clemente's diamond-shaped number 21 on the right field wall, covered by signage advertising Surfside cocktail drinks. Not a popular move. Not the smartest.
I can't believe that.
I know.
Can you imagine, like, Yankees, covering up
Babe Ruth?
Yeah. I mean, come on.
Or Lou Gehrig. Well, the post caught the attention of the famed baseball player's son, Roberto Clemente Jr., who reacted to the post with 3 letters, wow. Clemente Jr.'s response drew more than 5 million views and an overwhelming number of responses, mostly expressing displeasure with what the Pirates did. This is not a good representation of ownership, one post read. Downright disrespectful. Some things are more important than a couple of advertising dollars, another post expressed. Pirates president Travis Williams released a statement Sunday saying the organization meant no disrespect to the Clemente family or their fans. We did not intend to disrespect the legacy of Roberto Clemente.
It just looked that way.
Yeah, exactly. By adding the advertisement to the pad in right field, Williams said in the statement, it was an honest mistake. We want to make sure that the Clemente family understands that we intended no disrespect to their father. Following Monday's meeting, Pittsburgh's Action News 4 spoke with Clemente Jr., who reflected on his first seeing the signage change.
Can't we just put an ad over that 21 out there?
Yeah, not good. He said both sides have decided to move past the moment and concentrate on collaborating on more projects together in the future.
All right.
So there you go. They had a nice initial meeting on Monday, being able to continue their relationship with a mutual respect and make sure things like this don't happen again, Clemente Jr. said.
Humans are humans. It'll happen again.
It's unclear, however, when the logo will be reinstated, but I think you'll see it reinstated there at PNC Field. You do not want to disrespect the legacy of Roberto Clemente.
No. A Hall of Famer? Come on. No.
Oh.
So here's a question. And I actually, I found a casino chip.
Okay.
In a drawer of mine. Mm-hmm. It was like a junk drawer. And I thought, it was $5 chip. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe I didn't bet that. And then I thought, I wonder if it's worth anything today. And then I wasn't about to drive to Atlantic
Atlantic City.
I
can believe that you didn't bet.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I got to drive all the way over there to find out. But check this out. What if it had been $50,000 in old casino chips?
That's a different story.
Would you try to cash it in? Well, this guy did.
A New Jersey appellate panel ruling that the man can't redeem nearly $60,000 in chips belonging to the Playboy Hotel and Casino. The State Treasury Department's Unclaimed Property Administration ruling that the chips that he bought at an online auction couldn't be cashed in because they were pilfered by an employee of a company that was supposed to destroy them. Chris DeMeo, Fox News.
Oh, my.
Crime everywhere.
Oh, my Lord. Everywhere you look, someone's grabbing an angle, aren't they?
Oh, my gosh. Let's talk about a lady.
Go ahead.
Last story before the top of the hour. This is kind of interesting. I mean, you've heard of emotional support animals, right?
Yes.
All right. So this lady had an emotional support animal, and she wanted to take a flight. I think it was either to or from Puerto Rico. So, but they wouldn't do it because of the kind of animal it was. So,
can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, let's get the details.
Maria Fraterigo says that Frontier Airlines won't let her board with Lucky, her African gray parrot. The New York City resident says the airline never put up a squawk when she boarded the flight from JFK to Puerto Rico and that she carries Plucky in a TSA-approved carrier. She says she was told at the gate if she wants to board, she has to get rid of the bird. Frontier says it's looking into the issue to try to find a way to bring her and Plucky back home. Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
The flight attendant's ugly. The flight attendant's ugly. Maybe that's the reason. I don't know. I'm just saying if the parrot, they tend to say stuff and maybe there's some awkward moments there. I don't know.
I mean,
the plane's going down. The plane's going down.
How can you say she can't, the parrot can't come back?
I know.
When that's how they got there.
Exactly. So you got to get over there somewhere, get the right kind of policy both directions, right?
Yes.
Parent went with you, wants to come back home. Coming up next hour, this guy has the biggest interview of the day is Ryan Fox, Houston Fox Financial Advisory Services. If we're taking a look at those 401ks, how should we react right now instead of just staying away from sharp objects? That's going to be a big thing there. Steve Shetter will be talking about TES services all next hour. It is 8 o'clock.
York's only local show is back on its new home on York's only local station.
Guess who's back? Back again.
This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
I'm back.
Now, broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios inside Wellspan Park, here's Gary Sutton.
It is a Wednesday morning here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK, the Main Street of America in York County, brought to you by Barley Snyder Law Firm. You can find them at barley.com. Innovative legal solutions for your business. They are a law firm for today's business world. And this hour is brought to you by TES, Total Exterminating Services, trusted local family-owned Steve Shetter. You can give him a call at 717-951-3868. And he is ready to help you, residential and commercial pest control. And Steve's going to be with us a little bit later on in the hour, telling us some unusual stories of pest control. It's that time of year. I saw my first ant last night, by the way, Mark.
Your first ant?
Yeah, my bathroom sink. My first small ant of the season. He is no longer with us, by the way.
Was it very, very tiny, or was it a big one?
He was very tiny. He is now resting in peace.
You don't think he was like on reconnaissance for the?
I think he was on a lookout. I think he was the tip of the iceberg. He was out there looking and saying, "Is it okay for everybody else?" I wanted to send notice that it was not okay. He did not come back.
No.
To the ant family from whence he came, because I squashed him.
You squashed him.
I'm an ant killer.
Personal vendetta.
It was. I do not like ants, and I'm glad TES is presenting this hour for
ants.
Us.
Don't bother me.
They bother me. I'm telling you what. It's on my list of things that bother me a lot.
Is it more than spiders?
Well, spiders are there too.
What about those
we had a
silver
big spider
fish?
last week. I found 2 spiders last week too. So I'm going to be talking to Steve about that because Steve is my exterminator, and I'm going to say Steve.
And you need one.
Well, my wife came across a spider last week, and it was, I'll tell you how big it was. It was kind of walking along there and was carrying along one of the dishes that the dogs had, or the cats had. So
that is not true.
I might be exaggerating a touch on that, but he was big. He was big. I mean, he should have been paying rent. That's how big this spider was. My wife said, "Would you come over and kill it?" My wife didn't even want to kill it. I had to wrestle with it for a while, and then I eventually got it down. But no, I took out a paper towel, and I walked over and I said, "Good night." And that was it.
Wow.
And I squashed him too.
Did you say a prayer?
I did not. No, I did not. With that, we turn to a guy who's talking to a lot of people who are saying prayers right now for their 401ks. That's Ryan Fox, financial advisor, Houston Fox Financial Advisory Services. He joins us this time every Wednesday morning. He is the most popular or unpopular guy in the world right now in this show. Good morning, Ryan. How you doing?
Well, Gary, I'm okay. How are you doing?
Well, I got my report for you the other day. I saw tears on it. From when you were probably trying to mail it out and you were sitting looking over these things. But you are a guy who has attracted a lot of attention right now, I'm sure. And the news out there is, well, it's all over the lot right now. And there are a lot of people saying, "Ryan, help me, please. Give me some good news this morning." Is there good news to be had out there at all, Ryan?
Well, yes. The best spin possible is we are closer to the end of this tariff tantrum than the start.
Okay.
Now, how long the tantrum's going to last is anyone's guess. Last night, about 11 p.m., I was looking at the stock market futures, which is kind of just an indicator of where markets were open, and they weren't too bad. Well, then, magically overnight, the China tariffs went into effect, and this morning China announces a retaliatory tariff of 84% in response to what we did. And now the stock market futures are down 700 points on the Dow. Now, they don't open till 9:30, close at 4. It's a long trading day. But it really looks like what we wrote about in our client commentary that, some of the analysts are saying any surprising either potential or perceived slowdown in economic growth, which this will likely cause, could produce a correction in markets, but we need to stay invested. Well, that correction happened from about the last month, but last week, Thursday and Friday, the market fell 10% in 2 days, and that's continuing this week. So what that means is these fears in markets have led companies like Walmart just this morning to say, we don't know how to forecast our income for the next quarter based on these tariffs. And that's what Wall Street, that's what the stock market, and right now the bond market does not like. It's not necessarily the impact of these tariffs, it's the inability to plan for how these tariffs will impact their businesses and how long it will happen, and the fear of that we see an inflationary spike, which there's different schools of thought on that, with the stagnant economy, leaving the Fed with not a whole lot they could do. So we're kind of right in the hornet's nest right now for investors. The NASDAQ is down into bear market territory, which is defined as 20%. The S&P will get there, tipped into it yesterday, will continue that today. So a correction's a 10% decline, very common. A bear market every 3 to 4 years will see a 20% decline. That's kind of what we're looking at right now. So it's been a whipsaw of events. It's been an extraordinary amount of information. And I have talked to a number of clients. No one's panicked. Some have been very excited about a chance to take advantage of it, which I agree, but it's very hard to do. So, when markets fall like this, at worst, it should be patience. And the thing I thought of is, what do investing and successful marriages have in common? Lots of patience. So right now, that patience needs to come in. But yesterday there was a report. One market analyst came out and he said he sees the Dow at 50,000 by 2027.
Wow.
And he perceives that we will get through this. Better vibes will come from the White House administration, and markets will spike back up. And that was one of the few optimistic ones right now, because we're kind of at what seems like peak negativity in markets. And that's the sort of thing that would make a guy like Warren Buffett excited, saying, buy when others are selling. There's also this fear of recession. Now, that would be 2 negative quarters, 6 months of negative growth in the economy.
Right.
There are some predictions that's getting more likely. But if there's any degree of negotiation or success in alleviating some of these tariffs, we could see markets respond very, very quickly. But right now, that bear market, we're slumbering into it like a bear. We just need things to turn around to charge higher. But, the best advice that I have for people is stay the course. We don't want to let investment decisions be driven by emotion and fear. It may be smart to rebalance into this. It may be smart in taxable accounts to look at tax loss selling to take advantage of these losses and then reinvest back in. But the sell everything and I'll wait till things rebound approach means we're actually locking in the temporary losses and going to end up buying back at the wrong time, which is when things are higher. So, I've welcomed calls. These are times where I work a lot more hours, and if there's a call or an email come in, I try to get back to people really as quickly as possible.
Right.
But we haven't seen, at least the folks that my business partner and I deal with, panicking, because I think we understand this is a temporary problem, but markets are seeing it as something pretty dramatic right now. But we could be a month, 2, 3 months away from a pretty significant rebound. And that's what investors don't want to miss out on. We don't want to make a decision and say, well, I'll go right into a money market and wait, because oftentimes it's very hard to get back into markets. So it's a challenging time. It's a sort of thing where the news cycle's doing really a pretty good job of trying to explain how these things are happening. But it's really day to day, hour to hour. And like I said, 11 hours ago when I was looking at futures, they didn't look as bad. Now it looks like, at least at the start this morning, we'll see, but the market's going to head downward again.
Ryan, as you look at this whole tariff business, and we've been talking about it the last few days, obviously 10% lost the market over the last 3 days on this kind of talk. But one of the things that I've read about a lot has been that many of our, and I don't know that I like the verbiage that the president uses regularly. I'm not sure it doesn't inflame the markets. Sure. It doesn't inflame things. But at a basic fundamental, trying to examine what's going on, we had a lot of trade deals with organizations and with countries, frankly, in Europe following World War II. And obviously there were a lot of countries in Europe who were recovering from World War II from all the damage that occurred, particularly in that part of the world. So we look at that and we say, okay, a lot of these were done in a way to try to help them get back on their feet. Here we are now, 70 years later, 60 years later, with some of the same trade deals with countries that have rebounded, with countries who are now standing on their own. And obviously the European Union has come about. Is it right for us to now do a better job of renegotiating different trade deals that now are with countries who have become independent again and are no longer reliant on the United States as much, and maybe now we have these trade deficits that need to be corrected? Any thoughts on that this morning?
Yeah, I think there's a very diplomatic way to go about a lot of these things. I think you're absolutely right. When we look historically, the United States has always been very, I don't know if the term's paternal, but has tried to be a gentle hand to guide, emerging nations to become fully developed markets, and we've always been very eager and willing to do that. But I think we're at the point now where some of our competitors may not be treating us on a level playing field in light of some of those things over history. I agree with you. I think this whole situation is being negotiated, it feels like, through major media websites and the news channels, versus traditionally a lot of the diplomatic channels have been very quiet diplomacy where the Chinese don't want to be embarrassed.
Right.
There's certain tactics that, and maybe those things are going on behind the scenes, but I think they're being forced to negotiate openly the way that the Trump administration has done that. And, it's kind of the shock and awe thing where that's what these headlines are doing to markets, where a lot of this was happening behind closed doors for the benefit of mutual trade agreements. I don't think the markets would have had anywhere near this level of reaction.
No, I think you're exactly right. And we don't know what's being said behind the scenes. But as you said, with various cultures, we have to understand, too, how they like to negotiate. Whether they're good or bad actors doesn't really matter. Do you, by calling them out on the world stage, do you really get into a situation there where you're helping to have agreements come about or not? And we're getting a lot of mixed signals from the Trump administration, I think. Are we negotiating? Are we setting these? Are they unnegotiable? Different voices are saying some different things. You've always got a great tip for us every week. What's our tip for today, Ryan?
Yeah, my tip for the day is stay the course and be patient. No one ever wins selling out of a portfolio and moving to cash unless it's a very extreme circumstance. And I can't off the top of my head think of one. But even someone who is recently retired or looking to retire or 10 years into retirement, portfolios ebb and flow. And we've seen this before. In 2020, when COVID hit, we saw a massive bear market take over that only lasted 3 or 4 months. We saw something similar in 2022 when inflation spiked up, and it wasn't transitory, it was permanent. So the Fed came in, started to hike rates. That was a really bad year for stocks and bonds. So we've had this pattern over the last few years. And even if we look back at the first year of President Trump's first administration, we had a very similar market type movement because of the uncertainty. So just again, one of those times we need to be patient and endure to make sure that we reap the rewards of a future higher market within our portfolios. But anyone's welcome to call me if they have questions about any of this stuff.
I'm just going to say, Ryan, for people that are looking for a financial advisor now who are a little confused or have questions, now's a great time maybe to consider you. You're my financial advisor, but people might want to give you a call. And one of the things you always tell people is you're willing to talk to them before anything takes place and kick the tires a little bit. I know your number, 717-398-2040 by heart. But tell people about how you operate and how you might be able to help them, or even just give them a little bit of a opinion on how they're doing so far.
Yeah, so Sean Houston, my business partner, and I, we're fee-only fiduciaries, which means we're registered investment advisors, and our only compensation comes from our clients for financial planning and investment management, not from products. So 398-2040. We have offices in Gettysburg, Hanover, and York. Folks are welcome to call. We'll give them a second opinion. We'll tell them they're fine where they are. We'll give them an honest opinion of what we feel is best for them. And if it leads to future business, great. But if it helps comfort them a little bit, all the better right now.
Ryan Fox, Houston Fox Financial Advisory Services. Give them a call today, 717-398-2040. And kick the tires, talk a little bit about what you have going on financially. And maybe he is a guy that could be a helpful answer for you. but you can find out. He'll answer the phone for you. Ryan, tough times right now, but maybe better times coming up in the future. And we'll try to take your advice and your tips today. Thank you, my friend, as always.
Hey, thanks for having me, Gary. Have a good day.
Have a great rest of the week. Ryan Fox, Houston Fox Financial Advisory Services. Give him a call today, 717-398-2040. We meet Steve Shetter next of TES, Total Exterminating Services. This is a time of the year where we have some pests. Yeah, beyond the political ones, yes. We have some pests, and Steve's going to tell you a story. I want to hear the story this morning about the time he got 150 mice out of someone's home. All here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. Steve, just around the corner. I Dream of Jeannie.
See, I got the same kind of vibe.
Or is it the...
It's the other woman.
It's the other one, yeah. The one with Larry.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's a.
Oh, it's Bewitched.
Bewitched, right?
Yes.
Yes. She's a witch. There's a difference between a genie and a witch.
I know.
Although, not much, if you think about it.
No. I mean, it's a mystical world and all that, and yeah. Anyway, it is Theme Song Wednesday.
Oh, and I will tell you that the next one I'm going to play, which will be out of the bottom of the hour news, is one of those songs that you know the lyrics to, one of the TV show themes that you know the words to. We've played a lot. The last few have been no words, but we're going to play one with words.
I sing them now and then.
And we will both do it.
Which is frightening.
Yes. It's everybody will do it.
Yes, it is. And I'm sorry, ahead of time.
Yes.
Anyway, welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show on the Main Street of America and WOYK. It's also the Main Street of York County. And we are joined this morning by Steve Shetter. Listen, he's with Total Exterminating Services, who is a sponsor of this hour, by the way. You can give them a call at 717-951-3868. But Steve has been in this business for over 35 years. But he has a story this morning. He's telling us stories about pests. There's a lot of pests that come around, a lot of them political, but some not. And Steve, good morning. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Gary. Doing well. How are you doing?
Good. Well, you take care of a lot of our pests, not the political ones, but the other kind that infest our houses a lot of times. I saw my first ant last night, Steve, a mini ant who came out onto my sink in the bathroom, and he is no longer with us. He's rested in peace now. But I got to tell you, I was thinking of you last night. I'm thinking I got to get Steve out here. But you have a story about the time you removed 150 mice from a house. I crawled just thinking about this. You've come across a lot of these over the years, but tell us that story this morning to start us out.
Yeah, I thought I'd go with, actually, that's a tamer one, Gary, and I thought I'd go with that this week. But
that's a tamer one? That's a tamer one? Are you kidding me, Steve? Tell me about it.
So I got a call several years ago for a couple, and went out to their house, and from the outside you would never know it. Very nice house, and went in and knew that they had a pretty serious mouse population going on, but I didn't realize how serious it was. And it took me 6 months, but I'd make a game of it each week to see how many mice I would remove.
Oh my gosh.
Over a 6-month period, I removed 150 mice from their house.
Oh my gosh! How bad was it? I mean, you walk in the house there and you're greeted by a mouse. I mean, how bad is that kind of situation?
You could see them running, and you could smell it.
Gosh!
Yeah, and the droppings were everywhere. And one week I went and. The homeowner was upset because she put her shoe on and there was a mouse in it.
Oh, no.
When she put her shoe on.
Oh, no. No. I'm crawling.
Yeah.
Okay. Residential and commercial pest control. That's where you live. You have been doing this for a long, long time, 35 years. Tell us about TES and the kinds of things that you do right now. You're family-owned, which I love. You're local, which I love. And when you call the office, you get someone live in the office, which I also love, as opposed to your call is very important to us, which is the biggest lie in the world. But tell us a little bit about, where you service and what you've been doing here, Steve.
Yeah, so we service residential and commercial. We service York, Lancaster, and Adams counties. And yes, I started in the business 35 years ago. Actually, it's my 36th year, Gary. Started for a family-owned company that is no longer family-owned. And I just saw the way that they had changed things. I loved working for the family-owned company. I tell people if they would have stayed family-owned, I'd probably still be there. But I saw the offices closed, and when you call, you got someone that you didn't know where they were from. And everybody worked remotely, and it didn't have that family feel to it at all anymore. And so, I was too young to retire and still had many years to go, and decided, hey, let's just start our own family-owned business up. So, I might have mentioned last week, my grandson works for me. We've got 6 technicians. We've got an office staff. When you call us, you're going to get a person that's local to talk to, and they're going to take good care of you, and we're going to take care of whatever your need is.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's TES, Total Exterminating Services, trusted, local, family-owned. You can give them a call at 717-951-3868 or 3868, and you can find them at TESPest.com. It is ant and termite season right now. They cause over $5 billion in damage. And by the way, you have a special right now. If you call and mention you heard us on this show, what happens, Steve?
We will give you 10% off any one-time service, Gary.
Wow, that's a great thing. You are my pest control guy. I'm going to be having you out to take care of things at my house, and you might want to consider Steve for your house, too. TESPest.com, 717-951-3868. If you're seeing your first ants of the season, or you have some idea about termites or some other kind of pest, Steve is ready to help you right now. Steve, we're looking forward to talking to you every week, my friend. And thank you so much for sponsoring this hour of the Gary Sutton Show. And thank you for all you're doing. And I'm looking forward to working with you. Steve just doing a great job. 35 years of experience there, ladies and gentlemen. You can't miss. Give them a call today again at 717-951-3868 or go to TESPest.com. Steve, have a great rest of the week. And you've already made me crawl with that mouse story. I don't ever want to see that kind of thing happen in my house. I don't think anyone wants to see it at theirs. Thanks for all you're doing, buddy.
Hey, thank you very much, Gary. Have a good day.
Steve Shedden, TES Pest Control. Check him out today at TESPest.com. WOYK News Time is 8:30. When we come back, we're going to check in with our district attorney, Tim Barker, here of York County. He joins us for marijuana. A lot of people talking about that. Is there anything to the fact that marijuana is a lot more serious than we thought it was? Tim's got some numbers for you and some thoughts on that when he joins us here on the Gary Sutton Show at 8:35 on WOYK. It's the Main Street of America at York County. Back with more right after this. It's 8:30. Oh, no.
Oh, you don't know this one?
Yes, it.
Green Acres. Oh, that one.
Yeah, sorry. Eddie
Everybody. Green Acres is the place to be. Farm living is the life for me. Land spreading out so far and wide. Cape Manhattan, just
give me that countryside. Yeah, Eddie Albert and Eva Gabor.
Oh, New York is where I'd rather stay.
Oh, my.
I get allergic smelling.
Oh, my Lord. We've lost it. We've gone around the bend.
Penthouse view. Darling, I love you, but give me back Avenue.
Anyway, welcome back. The Green Acres, where he moves from Manhattan to a countryside, and Eve Gabor is this
it was great
spending lady and his wife, and not Zsa Zsa, but Eva Gabor.
Oh, and the characters they had.
And Eddie
so
Albert.
Funny.
Oh, it was there. Well, yeah, it was crazy. But anyway, there you go. Welcome back to the Gary Sunshine. I lost my place.
It is 8:35.
It is. By the way, themes of shows Wednesday?
Oh, Wednesday, yes.
TV themes. And
yes.
This hour, by the way, brought to you by TES Exterminators. Yeah, we just talked with Steve here a moment ago, Steve Shetter, who owns them. And that 150 mouse story, I'm telling you what, that'll wake you up.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
No.
One of the first apartments I lived in, I could hear them running across the ceiling. It was one of those prefabbed homes things.
Is that sublet?
Well, no. Yeah, it was a rent. I did not stay there much longer. You could hear the mice running across the ceiling at night on the plastic. Inside, it had sat out at the fairgrounds for a while, and they brought them to this place and put them down. Well, unfortunately, the mice came with them. And I remember that. So I had creepy feelings when Steve was telling that story this morning. By the way, you can call them at 717-951-3868, 3868. They are in York, Lancaster, and Harrisburg, residential and pest control. And again, ant and termite season just coming up right now. So it might be a good time to give them a call and get on the list, right? Anyway, with that, Tim Barker, our district attorney of York County, joined us this morning. He probably has never been introduced after talking about termites and ants. Good morning, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How's it going, Gary?
Pretty good. Sorry to segue into you from that, but pest control.
Hey,
yeah.
I always like a good little bit of pest control. Nothing like getting rid of some insects and rodents.
Well, yeah, exactly right. And nothing screams district attorney more than that, right? So, but you guys sometimes are getting rid of pests, and just a different kind. Anyway, it's great to have you in this morning, my friend. You know, for a long time, Tim, a lot of people talked about marijuana as it was this harmless kind of vice, and you know, we've talked about the legalization of it. I know the governor has brought that up even in the budget about trying to get rid of that, and a lot of people aren't buying in on that one. We've heard our former, before he became a senator, our senator here talking about the idea of, you know, it's just something that's harmless. It's not going to hurt anybody. We need to do something about it. We're finding out that maybe that's not the case, aren't we? Talk a little bit about the legalization of marijuana and where we're going with that right now and some of the research and what it's telling us.
Sure thing. And Gary, you know, it actually ties into also, I wanted to mention that tomorrow evening we have our Victims Candlelight Vigil and March starting at 6 p.m. at the old courthouse, going down to Trinity UCC. And one of the reasons why I think that that's a good segue is because marijuana is dangerous, and part of the reason why it's dangerous is because of what you just said with your introduction, which is we don't act like it's dangerous.
Right.
Anything that you don't respect what it can do to you becomes immediately dangerous. So how does marijuana become dangerous?
Right.
Well, we'll start off first of all, victims of crime, okay? Where it has been legalized, they shot up through the roof with regards to impaired driving for marijuana and homicide by vehicle while DUI due to marijuana impairment. Marijuana absolutely impairs your driving function. Marijuana impairs you visually. Marijuana impairs you from your ability to process properly everything around you in terms of your motor skills. And one of the areas that marijuana has a real impact, and this is a unique thing about the marijuana function, is it actually is related to speeding. Everybody has this Cheech and Chong impression of what marijuana does when you're driving. You're going to go so slow. You're going to do all those aspects. It's actually the opposite. So many times we find a direct correlation with speeding. We know that for our repeat and multiple offenders in York County, and we keep very careful stats on this because we do extensive toxicological blood testing in DUI cases to go ahead and see what drugs are on board. We know that a drug is on board for those repeat offenders at about a clip of 60%. And overwhelmingly, the drug that's on board is marijuana. And we're either seeing by itself or in combination with alcohol or other drugs, marijuana impairment that's taking place. And because it impacts the brain, stores in the fatty areas, it can last for a lot longer in certain key areas in that way, such as with vision. So that's just looking at impaired driving and the danger on the roadway to what the risk we run. Then when you talk about children, and I'm actually at a juvenile justice conference in Gettysburg by the PDA right now, where we've been talking a lot about juveniles. The risk of harm to juveniles grows exponentially when you legalize. Every state that has seen dramatic increases in the use of marijuana by juveniles. Well, what does that do to the juveniles? Well, it increases their likelihood, if you're using under the age of 18, to become addicted. And this is far more potent marijuana than what used to exist. It's a 1 in 6 clip. Over 18 is a 1 in 10 clip. You're getting far more psychosis, far more mental health issues. You're seeing more onset of schizophrenia. You're seeing IQ drops. And this is a really, really big deal when you're talking about this. That if you were a persistent user, you're somebody that's always using marijuana, and you started in your teenage years, and you kept using up, one of the studies using up through age 38, they noticed on average an IQ drop of 8 points. That's a large drop, and that's because it's hitting directly into functions such as your neuropsychological impairment and your executive functioning and processing speed. You're just not able to go ahead and engage in the same way to have the same level of productivity, especially if you are a persistent juvenile user. It is going to go ahead and impair those functions, and it makes sense. Your brain's developing. So now you're putting this toxin into your brain, and it's storing there, and it's wearing away at your brain. And this is the kind of deficit that you get. And the legalization of it makes it seem like it's okay, that there's no respect for the damage that it can do. And one of the things I found ironic overall, we had all the big smoking ban crackdowns because of the harm and the dangers, and especially secondhand smoke then as well, and all the warnings that we have in that regard. Well, when you're talking about marijuana use, an area that's near and dear to me as well is also cardiovascular. And anybody that has any kind of family history of cardiovascular issues pays attention to it. 25% increase in heart attacks and 42% increase in strokes for daily users of marijuana. You're 6 times more likely to have a heart attack if you're a user than a non-user.
So much for a harmless vice, right? I mean, from what you're telling me right here, just the array of things you've kind of rolled out here in a minute is pretty darn impressive in a very negative way, right?
Yeah. And the concept that, okay, all this money that's going to come in, look at all these revenues. Well, first off, with all those revenues came bureaucracy. So you created all these new government jobs, regulation, all these aspects for what is a very small industry in many respects that gets through to be able to legally sell under these structures. So you get great increase of expenditure that comes with it. Then you take a look at all the money you have to spend societally with loss of life, healthcare demand increase, juvenile addiction issue increase, all the amount that we have to put into drug and alcohol rehabilitation. Look at all those different increases. Well, that wipes out anything that you are going to remotely have on the other side of the cash ledger. And also, it doesn't stop the illegal sales of marijuana. Doesn't stop it at all. In fact, it made it easier to have illegal sales. They were seeing in some of the states increases by like 60% of local growers and also cartel activity because it's a perfect black market drug. Wow. And they go in to sell and undercut the market. You can easily do that, and it becomes very difficult to go ahead and be able to fully tell what was legally obtained, what was illegally obtained. It hasn't gone ahead and really stopped that aspect. And so if your black market is still thriving, then what does also thrive with that? Crime. Because if you take a look at just two of the homicides that we have had since December, both of them involved marijuana drug deal robberies. And that is something that happens when you have a marijuana black market. You are going to continue to have ancillary crime associated with it. So there are dangers. And one leading expert that I remember being in a presentation for, Dr. Doug Marlowe, said, in some respects, marijuana is becoming the most dangerous, not because of its immediate impacts, but because we treat it like it's not a big deal.
Well, there's the problem.
It's not dangerous at all.
Yeah, there's the problem, that we're treated like it's not a big deal. And I think it's important to have some of these stats right now because this is approaching it from the standpoint of real numbers and real things that are happening, Tim. And I think that's the important part. Final thing you tell people today about this in our final minute.
Sure. We should not be supporting legalization of recreational marijuana use. And RDA's Association has always taken a stand with that. Law enforcement has as well. Look, the concept that we are just locking people up on small amounts, it's completely false. That's not occurring that way. And absolutely, we should be investing in rehabilitating individuals to not be addicted on marijuana or any other controlled substance. And there is room to argue as well, should we move it from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 2? Cocaine's a Schedule 2. It would allow more testing and experiments to occur with regards to marijuana. But the bottom line is, this is not just some, no problem, hey, this is going to be an easy breezy for society. We'll get great profit windfall, no harm. That's completely false. It's not going to go ahead and work out that way. And I'm glad that our local delegation, that they are in opposition to having marijuana be decriminalized for recreational use. I'm very glad that they are opposed to recreational marijuana. We need to be. It's the costs, the risks are just too great to have it go that way.
Great point. And thanks so much for bringing us up to date on that today. Good luck at your conference day, Tim. Thanks again for being with us. We'll talk to you again next week, all right?
Yep, sounds great, Gary. Hey, thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Tim Barker, our district attorney of York County, talking about the dangers of marijuana, and there's a lot more there than maybe you hear sometimes in the press and some of the stories out there, and some of the people saying, oh, it's not a big deal, it's just a little bit of a vice. No, more to it than that. We'll take a break. We'll come back with more here. It's 8:48. Final thoughts, final stories coming up on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK, the Main Street of America, and York County, right here.
Chihuahua.
You might be wondering, wait a second, I thought it was TV show theme
This
Wednesday.
is a movie theme.
Movie, Broadway.
Relatively recent.
Yes. I'm playing this, though, obviously from Lion King.
Right.
It was on this date 13 years ago, so the year was 2012. The Lion King passed what Broadway show as the highest grossing Broadway show of all time?
Let me think here. It would have been not Jekyll and Hyde, but
yes, you're on the right track.
It's the I know.
Yes,
the Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera, correct? Yes, and since then, the Phantom of the Opera has slipped to third place. So,
really a Phantom of the Opera now.
Yes, the Phantom.
Also a Phantom of the money.
Since it's opened in 1988, Phantom has made $1.4 billion. The Lion King at number 1 has made $2 billion.
Wow.
Since it opened in 1997. So there's only one more question to ask, and that is, so what is at number 2? If Phantom was number 2 and slipped to number
Cats?
3, what came in at number 2? No. Most recently turned into a motion picture.
Oh, but Hamilton?
Wicked.
Wicked, okay. yeah.
Wicked has made $1.7 billion since it opened in 2003.
And getting ready for Wicked 2, I guess, coming up. I watched Wicked.
Mm-hmm.
It was really great for the senses. I mean, visually, you look
Yes.
at it. I mean, the colors
Good
and all the
show.
stuff. Really cool. But it fell a little short of my expectations, I guess. I don't know. I'm still stuck on Margaret Hamilton back from the, Wizard of Oz, and I don't know. It just didn't do a lot for me.
Uh-huh.
The music didn't. The music was good. I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't. It just. I don't know.
I enjoyed it just for the fact that it wasn't, the same thing.
Okay.
And there are aspects to shows, I don't know if you find this, but there are aspects to shows that are really products of their time. And the music reflects that. If you listen to some of like Camelot always seems to remind me of the 60s. There are certain shows in the 70s, 80s, all that jazz and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this show seems to me, and I'm just talking about the music styling, there's just something about it it's
now.
Yes.
Yeah, it's now. I get you. And I kind of had the same feeling when I watched it the other week, but I slept through part of it. That's how bad it was. I just was.
You're not alone. It was a long movie.
It was very long, but, it has, and of course they set you up for the next one.
Yes,
which is when she becomes Margaret Hamilton.
Yeah. No.
But
Anyway.
tell me that wasn't the scariest day in history when you found out the one morning, speaking of the Wicked and then the Wizard of Oz, Margaret Hamilton, who didn't need a lot of makeup, frankly, she was a pretty homely lady. I don't know if she looked any better at a younger age, but she was when she was Elvira Gulch in that before she became the Wicked Witch. I mean, you didn't have to. Like, Margaret, just come on out here. Don't worry about any makeup. We're fine. And she was not a good look. And you know what frightened me? Because she frightened me for a lot of years. I got to tell you. I mean, she was as good a witch as there ever was. It left an image in my soul.
All right. So,
but here's the deal.
Oh, okay.
Here's the deal.
Go ahead.
The worst day ever was the day that I turned on the TV and there was Cora on the Maxwell House coffee commercial played by Margaret Hamilton.
So you had flashbacks?
Do you want your coffee too? Huh? No, I she scared the hell out of me. She really did.
Right.
I want to let you know the impression it left.
There, and I appreciate that. Hopefully,
I feel
this
that.
cathartic emotions will help
Bury
you.
my soul.
Yes. You mentioned earlier, we had a story very early this morning that caught my ear. It had to do with an extinction.
Yes. Oh, well, no, we were trying to get a reptile.
Oh, is that what it was?
Right, the state reptile, which was the eastern box turtle.
Well, we know what extinction means.
We do.
But do you know what a de-extinction means? Check this story out. If you watched Game of Thrones, one of the families had a special connection with dire wolves. And dire wolf is a much larger
nothing like
wolf.
werewolf. Right?
Yeah, it's it's a bigger wolf,
right?
And they have been extinct for a while, but not anymore. Check this out.
The call of the wild revived after 13,000 years extinct. The birth of 3 wolf pups named Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi, billed as the first de-extinction in world history by Colossal Biosciences. They extracted the DNA of dire wolf fossils, took blood cells from a gray wolf, genetically modified the traits, inserted that in a domestic dog's egg cell, implanted surrogate dogs with embryos for the miracle rebirths. How will the 140-pound hyper-carnivores differ from their white-furred ancestors? Colossal says they'll probably never learn the finishing move of how to kill a giant elk or a big deer. Now living in a protected range at a secure location under human care. Therese Crowley, Fox News.
Great, we need that. Yeah.
Read Jurassic Park, for crying out loud.
There you go.
It never ends well.
Hey, speaking of extinction, this hour has been brought to you by Total Extermination Services. How's that for a segue, huh? Yeah, Steve Shedder and all the good people over there remind you it's ant and termite season. They cause over $5 billion in damage per year. Give them a call today at 717-951-3858 or TESPest.com. Check them out, and they are ready to help you. By the way, coming up tomorrow, the extinction of your 401k at the moment is something else that we're talking about. It's not extinct. Don't get me wrong. Just don't watch too closely every day right now. And stay away from sharp objects. Chris Markowski will talk about that tomorrow morning. The economy, the tariff wars, that'll be at 6:35. Joel Sears will be getting back into tariffs. He's been dissecting those for us the last couple of weeks, and he'll take that apart tomorrow at 7:05. And then at 7:35, Dennis Owens, ABC 27 News, gets into some of the politics going on in the state and around the country. Andrea Ryan will round up what's happening in New York at 8:05 tomorrow when she joins us here on the Gary Sutton Show. We'll welcome a new sponsor tomorrow, Augie's, and we'll tell you about them. And then Aaron Anderson at 8:35, all here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. Thanks to Mark. Thanks to you for listening today. Have a great day, everyone, on Main Street. It's 9 o'clock.